As Vince Welsh would say, the wheel is still and perfect for Ross Chastain once again this morning. We've got silly season news to talk about. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric, and welcome to Out of the Groove. A beautiful Monday morning. You know what that means? Someone is dropping a massive NASCAR news bomb on us. And today, that person or persons is Chip Ganassi Racing. We now know who will be driving the 42 car next year. We're going to talk about that in today's episode, and we're going to talk about what this most recent announcement means for all the other drivers still on this hot free agency market. Chip Ganassi Racing announced this morning that Ross Chastain will be driving the number 42 Cup Series car in 2021. It's unknown at this point how long the deal may be for. It's also unknown what sponsors may be involved in this deal. But regardless, Ross Chastain, the watermelon farmer from Florida who's become a fan favorite the last several years, he will officially make his return to Chip Ganassi Racing equipment next season in the 42 car. Here was a statement from Chip Ganassi on today's announcement. Ross has been a part of this organization for a few years now, and I'm happy to announce him as our driver for the number 42 team. In 3 races with our organization in 2018 and watching ever since, he showed me and everyone else that he is a tenacious driver who wants to win. We believe that Ross will give our team the opportunity to be competitive each week and our sponsors someone to build a program around. Additionally, his racing background has him well suited to make the move to the Cup Series. And Ganassi mentions a little bit of it right there, but some background information on how Ross Chastain got to this point. The last 2 or 3 years have been an absolute roller coaster for Ross Chastain. He really got his first big break in NASCAR in 2018 when Chip Ganassi let him drive their 42 Xfinity car for 3 races at the end of that season. And in those 3 races, Ross Chastain finished 1st, 2nd, and 25th, but that was a race at Darlington where he and Kevin Harvick wrecked while racing for the lead, and I would say at least some of that wreck was Kevin Harvick's fault. An incident which afterwards Kevin Harvick said this about Ross Chastain's future.
Probably the reason that he'll never get to drive many of them again.
Ugh, talk about old takes exposed. In 2019, Ross Chastain was expected to drive the entire Xfinity schedule for Chip Ganassi Racing until sponsor DC Solar went bankrupt. Turns out they were like committing fraud or something. I don't know everything that happened there, but Chip Ganassi Racing had to shut down his Xfinity team, which kind of left Ross Chastain SOL, for lack of a better phrase. But Chastain picked himself back up from that and went on to win 3 races for Nice Motorsports in the Truck Series last year, finished 2nd in the championship standings. And now in 2020, racing full-time for Colleague Racing in the Xfinity Series, Chastain doesn't have a win yet, but he has 23 top 10s in 26 races and has emerged as maybe a dark horse pick for the Xfinity Series championship. And Ross Chastain earlier this year did make 3 Cup Series starts for Roush Fenway Racing, replacing Ryan Newman when he was injured. He finished 17th, 23rd, and 27th in those 3 races. Nothing too spectacular, but if you look what Ryan Newman's done in that car, it isn't any better. But that basically takes us to where we are now. Ross Chastain will be driving the 42 car next season. I'm extremely excited. Obviously, as you can tell, I'm wearing a Matt Kenseth 42 car. I'm a big Matt Kenseth guy. Matt Kenseth, I knew from the beginning he was not coming back next year. Unless he won the championship this year. I think it was pretty clear Matt Kenseth was not coming back for the 2021 season, but I'm extremely excited for Ross Chastain for a number of reasons. Firstly, he's the kind of story that NASCAR should be promoting the heck out of. He's a driver who doesn't come from a whole lot of money. He's not funding these rides himself. He doesn't have a wealthy parent who's helping, pick and choose what rides he progresses through. He literally is a watermelon farmer from Florida. I mean, that's why he's embraced the whole melon man aesthetic, and he's created a whole brand for himself, which I think is incredible. This day and age, when so many NASCAR drivers look really similar to each other, Ross Chastain, his driving style on the track is noticeably different from other drivers. He's known for being a bit aggressive, perhaps. I mean, Chip Ganassi said he's quite tenacious. Sure, that leads to some aggressive mistakes, which I have called him out for plenty of times. I do think he needs to learn to refine some of that aggressiveness for the right points in races, but he's wildly entertaining and has his own personality, something he's built himself. He's built this entire brand himself. He's not racing for Joe Gibbs Racing. He's not racing for Hendrick or JRM or Kyle Busch Motorsports. He's not racing for Penske. He's not racing for Tony Stewart. He's spent the last 2 years racing for Nice Motorsports and Colleague Racing. Those are good teams. I don't mean any disrespect, but my point is Ross Chastain is establishing his brand, his character, more or less all on his own. I feel like we as fans only talk about Nice Motorsports, only talk about Colleague Racing, really because of Ross Chastain and what he's done the last 2 years. He's helped put those teams on the map in the lower series, so I'm extremely excited to see what he can do in the NASCAR Cup Series next year. He's going to be in a decent ride. If we want to talk about expectations for 2021, I'll keep my expectations fairly tempered. You know, Kyle Larson was consistently a playoff driver in the 42 car. Didn't win races every year, didn't win races all too often, honestly, but he was a top 10 threat most weeks and you know, typically made the playoffs. And his last year in the 42 car made it to the round of 8, actually, which was the furthest he'd ever made it in the NASCAR playoffs. That was in 2019. This year in 2020 with Matt Kenseth behind the wheel, kind of weird circumstances, obviously. Oldest driver in the NASCAR Cup Series field, hasn't been in a NASCAR car in a year and a half, no practice, no qualifying, and a crew chief change midway through the season. I mean, Matt Kenseth, he has one top 5 this year. He almost won the Brickyard 400, which was kind of the highlight of his season, but most of this season he's run like 16th or 17th, which I think honestly is probably closer to what that car is normally capable of. I think Kyle Larson was certainly getting the most out of it most weeks. So if I'm looking at Ross Chastain's 2021 season, I think he should be going for a playoff spot. I think he certainly has the capabilities to make the NASCAR playoffs, either with a win or even on points. I mean, there's 16 drivers that get in. He could definitely point his way in next season, but I'm not going to look at next season and say it's playoffs or bust for Ross Chastain. He's going to be working with a still relatively new crew chief. Phil Surgeon, like I said, only became the crew chief of the 42 car a couple months ago. So I'll keep my expectations fairly reasonable. We also don't know what the schedule looks like for next season. We don't know how many races are going to have practice and or qualifying. So there's still a lot of things we don't know about next season. So I'll keep my expectations realistic, maybe a little lower than maybe a lot of you guys have him at. I think Ross Chastain can win races next year. He very well might win a race next season, but I'd just be happy with, you know, top 20 in points, runs top 15 most weeks, runs most all the laps, tries to limit some of the aggressive mistakes, but doesn't lose out on that voracious appetite he has to get wins. I don't want to see him, you know, back it down and not race like himself. Like, I certainly want him to go for it still, but hopefully he can kind of learn to pick and choose his battles a little more carefully, because I'd love to see Ross Chastain have a long and successful career in the NASCAR Cup Series. He's 28 years old, or will be 28 years old, I guess, when next season starts. So a little bit on the older side of drivers making their first, you know, this isn't his first year in the Cup Series. He's had a couple other years in the Cup Series, but for, you know, back marker teams. But for a guy who's making his first, having his first Cup Series season in good equipment, yeah, he's a little older than some of the other dudes, but I have a lot of faith in Ross Chastain. I think he has the potential to surprise a lot of people next year. So I'll be watching very closely. And I mean, I got where's my Watermelon Man hat? I know I'm supposed to look objective, but I like Ross Chastain. I'm rooting for Ross Chastain. Go get him, buddy. Go get him. Smash some melons on him. Anyway, but as far as the rest of silly season goes, how does this affect all the other drivers still on the market? A report from Adam Stern this morning suggested that Bubba Wallace was likely the first choice for Chip Ganassi Racing, which no surprise there. Bubba Wallace brings in tons of sponsorship, tons of funding. I'm sure any team would like that. But if I had to look past that tweet and given some of the other things we already know, I think Bubba Wallace is still waiting on Toyota and Denny Hamlin or whoever it is to get a deal done to turn Germain Racing or Gaunt Brothers Racing into a new Toyota TRD backed team. I think that's where Bubba Wallace is going if and when that happens. I kind of was hoping Eric Jones would emerge as a possible frontrunner for the 42 car, since it sounds less and less likely by the day that Hendrick Motorsports is going to be an option. And I say less and less likely because, you know, he's been rumored as the frontrunner for the 48 for literally months now. And, you know, he's been a free agent now for several weeks. And you'd think if those talks were ever really close, they would have gotten a deal done by now. It's not like it'd be a huge distraction to Eric Jones right now. He's not in the playoffs. It's not like he's really racing for anything that meaningful at the moment. So I don't know why they wouldn't just go out and announce it right now. But anyway, I was hoping Eric Jones would emerge as a possibility for the 42 car. I still don't really know where Eric Jones goes. I think he's still a candidate for the 48. I think he maybe is a contingency plan over there. As I mentioned last week, there was a report from Bob Pockris that Rick Hendrick is trying to get Kyle Larson into the 48 car for next season. That's what it sounds like. But if he can't get a deal done with sponsors, if he can't get Chevrolet to sign off on it, if he can't make it work, I think there's a good chance Eric Jones will kind of be his fallback, his contingency plan. Now, another important factor is Ross Chastain moving to the Cup Series likely means there's going to be an open ride at Kaulig Racing in the Xfinity Series. I don't think he's going to do double duty, but he might. Ross Chastain has done triple duty many times in his career, so I wouldn't be shocked if he did it, but good chance there's an open ride at Kaulig Racing because they're going to want somebody who can run for the championship, I'd guess. So that could be a good opportunity for a driver like a Ryan Preece, who may or may not stay with JTG Doherty this year. He might be in need of kind of a restart, a refresh, if you will. Maybe see Ryan Preece, who's already a Chevy driver, end up with Kaulig Racing next year. You never know. You could see a guy like Eric Jones go down to the Xfinity Series next year. I would be shocked. I don't think that's likely, but could always be the only option left. It's tough to say. We also know that Spire Motorsports, who is expecting to become a two-car team next year, was hoping to sign Ross Chastain as one of their full-time drivers. That will no longer be an option, it sounds like, so maybe there'll be a ride there for somebody who needs it. But yeah, still a lot of questions as far as this year's silly season is concerned. I'm a little surprised that the 42 car was the first domino to fall, at least in recent weeks. I thought Bubba Wallace would really be the key here. Whenever he makes a decision, I felt like that would dictate many other decisions. I guess that still is kind of what happened. I mean, again, that Adam Stern report says that the only reason Ganassi hired Ross Chastain is because Bubba Wallace turned him down. So I guess Bubba Wallace still is kind of the main catalyst when it comes to this year's NASCAR silly season. Still more questions than answers, but I've been saying that for almost months at this point. But what a way to start the week with big news around Chip Ganassi Racing and Ross Chastain. Again, I'm really excited for Ross Chastain. Dude's really good with his fans. I've seen it firsthand at racetracks this year. He makes an effort, a strong effort to reach out to his fans and to be one of the most personable guys in the garage area. I've actually seen it for a couple of years. I can think back when he was still racing for like Premium last year in the Cup Series, or back when he was in his JD Motorsports days in like 2018. Even back then, I remember he'd be the last driver signing autographs. Everyone else would have already moved on. Chastain would still be there signing for people, taking photos. So credit to Ross Chastain. I'm excited to see what he can do next year. Hopefully he just doesn't tear up too much equipment. I guess it doesn't really matter because we're getting a brand new car in 2022. I guess he can wreck as many as he wants, honestly. Maybe that's part of Chip Ganassi's plan. Sign Ross Chastain to a 1-year deal. Maybe it's spectacular. Maybe he wrecks a bunch of cars, but who cares? We don't need those cars anymore anyways. Maybe this is a big brain move from Chip Ganassi Racing that we didn't realize at first, but I'm excited for Ross Chastain. I think he's going to thrive in that car next year. Anyway, you guys, that is all I have for today's episode. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you are new so you don't miss an upload. There's so much news out there in the NASCAR world. You're not going to want to miss anything over the next several weeks, so be sure to subscribe. And of course, a huge thank you to my fantastic Patreon supporters. If you also want to support the show on Patreon, you can check out that top link down below in the description. I greatly appreciate it. It's still early in the week. You never know what might happen here in the next several days. Wednesday night, California Clash featuring iRacing will be broadcast right here on my channel. I'll be hosting alongside Bob Jenkins, Alex Hayden, Justin Prince. We've got some great drivers racing that, including Bobby Labonte, Anthony Alfredo, and many, many more. So tune in 9 p.m. Eastern time this Wednesday. Going to be spectacular. And watch out for plenty of other videos between now and Las Vegas on Sunday. Second round of the playoffs for the Cup Series is about to start. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you again really, really soon.